Oh, let's make America dumb again. The stake starts now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tara Setmayer. This is Michelle Kinney, and we are the co-founders of the Seneca Project. Welcome to the Stakes. And given the namesake of our show, the stakes couldn't be any higher as another week goes by. It's day 59, people, day 59. And we've got the dismantling of the Department of Education. We've got Elon Musk having the Commerce Secretary and government officials, including the President of the United States, trying to help his tanking stock of his personal car company. We have Elon Musk and Donald Trump threatening to impeach judges. By the way, that's not a thing, but they're trying to do it. We've got armed incursions into private nonprofit organizations by Doge. Yes, that happened this week also. I mean, where do we want to start today, Michelle Kinney? Where do we want to start? Because it is out of control, completely out of control, worse each week.
It is worse each week. And I thought I could wear glasses, but I'm getting blinded with the glare. So that's not going to happen.
Isn't that a song? Is that The Weeknd? Blinded by the Light?
Maybe. I don't know. The Weekend, I can't. That's a whole
I'm not a big fan. That song was like an
earworm. Yeah, he sounds like a goat a little bit when he sings.
Yeah.
No offense. I'm sure he's a nice person, but it gives me goat.
Strictly, yeah, it's giving me goat.
It's giving me goat. It's giving me goat.
Not that goat. Bad goat. Anyway.
No, yeah, the bad goat.
Yeah.
So I think we should start just with the more breaking news of the Department of Education. What happened today. And first, I'm just going to play a clip here of him announcing it. So in case people didn't see it, we're going to show you
the scene. I can't.
There's two scenes. First, he announces it, and then he goes and does the dinner theater. So let me put the first one. Oops. No.
We'll take all lawful steps to shut down the department. We're going to shut it down and shut it down as quickly as possible. It's doing us no good. We want to return our students to the states where just some of the governors here are so happy about this. They want education to come back to them, to come back to the states, and they're going to do a phenomenal job. You know, if you look, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, I have to tell you, I give them a lot of credit. China's top 10. And so we can't now say that bigness is making it impossible to educate, because China is very big. But you have countries that do a very good job in education. And I really believe, like some of the governors here today, from states that run very, very well, including a big state like Texas, but states that run very well are going to have education that
I lost you. You're muted. Okay, while Michelle figures that out. Okay, a couple things. First of all, Denmark and Norway and Sweden are a fraction of the size of the United States. And they're socialist countries. I thought socialism was bad. China is a communist country where there's no freedom, where like you have to go to school. They basically have martial law there. Okay. Like we're comparing ourselves to China. Donald Trump doesn't even have the discipline to eat a steak properly. Never mind trying to impose that level of authoritarian discipline on Americans. So it is a false equivalency. Stop this, stop this, stop this. Okay. Making these comparisons and other people being like, yeah, let's be like China, where they have a forced abortion policy, where they, I mean, like, are we really, where they disappear people en masse and send them to labor camps? Oh, wait a minute. America's actually disappearing people. We had that happen last week since the last time we've all been together. We'll talk about that in a minute too. So like, what the actual fuck?
So can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay,
yes.
this is fantastic. Okay, so to start out, just where he's like, I've got a lot of governors here, and they're very excited, they're very happy. Okay, these are governors of states. No offense to people who live in them, but your education sucks, and everybody knows it. And Texas is one of them, and Florida is another one, and Alabama and Mississippi, and I mean, like, come on.
Which, by the way, Alabama, Mississippi, these states, majority red states, the top 10 worst performing states, and they also are the top 10 states that rely the most on the funding that comes from the Department of Education.
That's like just
22% of Mississippi's funding for education comes from the Department of Education. You know why? Because Mississippi is poor. And it's the poorest state in the union. Therefore, there aren't enough property taxes to pay for the school systems there. Therefore, you have the Department of Education, which was created to fill those gaps in the first place. Okay. And now this is, you want to talk about a self-own, you dumbasses? So you are cheering, let's get rid of the Department of Education so that you're now going, how are you going to make up for, who's going to pay for that 20%?
Well, that's the thing. I think that they're just hoping that people won't go to school anymore. Like, I legitimately
they can't get any more uneducated in Mississippi and places like that. No offense to people who live there, but I mean, we're just talking numbers.
Right. I mean, Arkansas, right? Governor Huckabee, she signed that law that basically undid the child work protections.
Right.
So they have the labor protection. So they've got kids working in like meat factories now, who are like 12, 11 years old. So, you know, I mentioned a couple weeks ago, the night of the Oscars, I had a friend here visiting. She lives in the Carolinas, and she is one of my theater friends, and she moved there. So she's like teaching voice and theater and stuff to small college.
I remember you telling me about her.
Yeah. To a small college there. And she said, you know, I would say probably half the kids here in this area at least are all homeschooled. And I was like, wait, what? And she said, yeah. She goes, you know, some of it's like, I don't want my kid to die at school. So like, I get that part. But the rest of it is I just want to control what my kids are learning. And she said, one of my students came in and said, my favorite subject is science, because that's when I get to learn about how God created the world. And I was like, sorry.
I know.
But like this,
well, that's like Oklahoma buying the Bibles.
Right. Exactly.
Taxpayer money.
Right. And so this is kind of where I'm like, you know, I don't even know. So let me play the little dinner theater.
Oh God, this.
Yeah. Oh wait, let me go back. Let me go back and start.
Yeah, there you go.
It was very lucky. I signed another document that turned out to be very good for the country, and I said, let's use that same pen. I don't know, is anybody superstitious? Ron, are you superstitious? Let's use that same pen.
Imagine cheering that on. I can't.
Or imagine letting your kid be used as a prop for this bullshit.
Right.
I mean, there's something inherently very
North Korea.
Yes. You said that earlier on our chat. And I'm like, it's very North Korea here. And I don't understand. I mean, look, back in the day, like in the 90s, when I was a young, wide, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Republican, we used to talk about certain departments that were like unnecessary, and it was a big bureaucratic boondoggle. And of course, the Department of Education was always at the top of that list. As you get older, you learn a little bit more about, in practical, real-life terms, how things work.
Right.
Maybe on paper, it sounded great to say, well, the bureaucrats in Washington don't know what's best for kids in Oklahoma, or what's best for kids in California, or what works for kids in Massachusetts. It should be all local. Well, you know what? It is majority local. Okay.
Yeah.
They don't, I mean,
and they determine the curriculum. Like the Department of Education does not determine curriculum.
That is correct.
There is no national curriculum.
No, there's no national curriculum. there are certain things, there's certain requirements attached to certain types of money if you want to get them, like, I don't
Mhm.
know, for like special education needs,
Yes.
Title IX, Title I, like these things they help to supplement.
Mhm.
They don't dictate, they supplement. That's why you have local school boards that are
Yeah.
elected.
Right.
Like, I mean, hello, what happened to the school boards?
I know.
So, I mean, it's apropos. I'm actually speaking to uh, a conference on Monday in DC that is from city school, like superintendents and stuff like that. It's a big like education conference.
Hmm.
And oh man, I can only imagine what the Q&A is going to be like on Monday. But like, these are people, I was talking to them and I was saying, I'm like, there's a reason why Republicans would always say, and I used to train for this, I used to train people on how to run elections for GOPAC. And one of the
Mhm.
things we used to tell people is start at the school board level, even if you don't have children, because that's how you ingratiate yourself to the community, because
Mhm.
everyone rallies around the schools.
That's what Steve Bannon had the Tea Party folks doing.
Exactly, because they took a page from the playbook that
Right.
Republicans had been laying out for years, since the 70s, because they saw after the 60s and the grassroots stuff with that, where to go. You got to go local. You got to keep it local, because
Right.
Democrats were a lot better at that. And so here we are now. It's manifested itself into this monstrosity and this perversion of things. And we're not far from where I live in Northern Virginia in Loudoun County is where the Moms for Liberty, CRT, kind of like mini Tea Party thing within education bullshit started.
Yep.
It started there. They were testing it there. It was the microcosm during
Yeah,
the
'cause
last
it
Virginia election in
right.
2021.
With Glenn
Glenn Youngkin, yes.
right.
Glenn Youngkin,
Trumpkin.
who's worth $400 million.
A man of the
And
people. A
yeah,
man of the
man of the
people.
people. But he wears a vest or whatever the fuck they wear. So I mean, so this was all a
Patagonia.
way, yeah, the Patagonia vest. Um, so this was a way for them to kind of test this. And now it has germinated into this much bigger cabal.
Right.
And they went from CRT to DEI, hiding behind that and getting people riled up. But if you want to get a community behind an issue, start with the schools. They did the same thing post COVID with the whole anti-masking thing, and oh, it was terrible what they did to our kids and blah blah blah, and all started from that. And that is now blown up to this, leading them to eventually now eliminate the Department of Education. I would like to know, frankly, how are they going to make up this funding gap? Because schools are funded through the lottery and
Yeah.
property taxes.
So
So are
funny, the
people's property
lottery.
taxes going to go up
Yeah.
or what? Like, how? I would like to know. Is Elon Musk going to write a fucking check to every school district now? I don't know. Or are they trying to completely get rid of public school and have everybody
I
homeschooled
think that
like
that's
The
more it.
Handmaid's Tale and, and Little House on the Prairie?
I think that that's more it because then you can indoctrinate children
Yes.
differently,
Yes.
and then you don't have to deal with the government, and you know
Mhm.
you
And
make it
curriculum.
easier for, right. You can make it easier for people um, to homeschool their kids, which will be a whole lot easier when they're not allowing women to go to work or not go to school
Yeah.
because that's also on their list of things that they would like
Yep.
to take away.
Yeah.
And so
Somebody's got to educate the kids, Michelle. It's got, it's going to be the
yeah.
women.
Right. It's going to be the women, even though we're not smart enough to do anything. We're smart enough
Right.
to educate the children, apparently.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, this is a thing. It's religious. It's part of this whole charter school thing, and I know that's a very controversial topic for people. I have my own feelings about them. Being a public school kid, I would not be where I am today if it was not for the public school system where I grew up. I feel very fortunate.
Yeah, me
And
too. I went to great public schools. I went to
yeah.
private school for 1 year. I went to performing arts school in 8th grade because I wanted to. My mom was like, "You're not going into the business, but we'll let you do it in 8th grade so you can get it out of your system." And it was lovely. I had a great time, but I
Yeah.
couldn't wait to get the hell out of there and go back to public school.
Yeah, I
Which I
mean,
did.
I love public school, and it's the foundation of our country in so many. Every kid is treated equal or should be treated equal from the same level in a public school system. And if we spent the tax dollars on public schools instead of reallocating them to charter schools, maybe we would have better public schools, but that's a whole nother topic
Yeah, that's
for
a whole
another
nother
day.
topic because I
Yeah.
mean, I have mixed feelings about that. I actually wrote my senior thesis in college in the 90s about charter
Mm.
schools, and I was in favor of them because at the time you had DC public schools were failing really badly, and they
Right.
got
Yeah.
taken over. They got taken over, and they had an independent kind of like independent board that needed to come in because DC just really screwed up their schools really
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
And they needed to fix them. And then so some of the options, because these kids were in these failing schools, what are we going to do? And you had all of these amazing kids. And my husband actually went to a charter school and it worked for him. I mean, he
Yeah.
wouldn't have gotten the chance to
That's the thing.
learn
It's
a
like
lot of things. So it's like
a lot of my friends' kids go to charter schools and they
Yeah,
yell at me about it. Like,
they
and I
do
was like, I
well,
get it, I
right?
get it, I get it. Yeah.
It's like sometimes but there's a way to do it where it's not at the expense of. It should be again like a compliment
Exactly.
to. So there's
Exactly.
ways to figure that out. And there's a difference between like vouchers versus charter schools versus
Right.
like, you know,
And why are
whatever.
taxpayers paying for vouchers for kids to go to religious schools? Like
Right.
that's a whole nother thing that they're
Right.
trying to do. But that's a whole
Right.
Project 2025 thing that we can talk about
And
at
it's
another
again,
time.
it's kind of like immigration where there
Right.
are multiple levels to this. It's more complicated than just like, you know, charter schools or public schools or that's it. Like it's a lot more layered than that. And
Right.
again, this is where localities get to make that decision. Maybe the charter school, works maybe that works for a certain locality. If that's what they voted for, then fine. But it's like schools, the point though in all this is that education is already decided largely at the local level. And this whole thing is very performative. And it's another way to control where that money's going to go and breaking down because they don't like the teachers' unions. So they're going to, they think they're too woke or whatever the fuck. And so now this is another way of completely upending something as opposed to just working to improve it.
Right.
Like, what were we doing? What was so horrible about the Department of Education that we needed to completely scrap it? And thousands of people are now out of their jobs, not to mention what this is going to do to student loans. I don't know what this is going to do. I'm still paying my student loans off from college because I wasn't rich and I went to a really good school that was expensive at the time and I'm still paying my school loans off. What happens now? I don't know. Like, I mean, what happens to the farmers who were getting federal funding for the school lunch programs?
That too, right? I mean,
what happens to the special ed, like the IEP programs?
Mm-hmm.
What happens to the schools that need those teachers that have to take care of those kids that have special needs that their local school districts can't pay, but were paid for through federal grants? What happens to all of that? I don't understand where the Democrats are and why they're not protesting in large numbers because they fucking knew this was coming this week and have kids instead of using the North Korea kids as props at the desks for the signing of it, signing away their own educations here. Why weren't they? Where are they out in the streets raising holy hell about this?
I know. I am. Listen, Senator Michael Bennett from Colorado.
Yeah.
Did you see the statement he made about,
didn't.
Veiled about Chuck Schumer? He was like, sometimes it's time to go and you need to know when it's time to go. And I like that's coming. And if I have to see Chuck Schumer's face on another TV going, listen, we all had to, sorry, let me do this. We all had to decide.
You got to look down them. You got to, yeah.
We had two choices. One very bad, one catastrophic. And it's just like, okay, but like they're both bad, but maybe do the one that fights back, which again, I mean, Winston Churchill, guys, like, the Blitzkrieg, they were getting, the shit kicked out of them and the people, the morale, the whole thing with the people, things could not have been worse. And it was over 30 days of bombings. And they said, why aren't you firing back? And the military said, well, we have to ration our weaponry and we can't see at night. We can't see the planes coming. And that's when they're coming. He's like, I don't give a shit. You were to fire back anyways, because the people here need to know that we are fighting back. And that stuff matters.
It matters. I used that example last Friday on CNN. So when we were together last week, I was mentioning how I was getting ready to go to New York the next day to be on CNN Friday night, which was very eventful, as it always is when I do the Abby Phillips show. And I was the only woman on the panel, and I was against Brian Lanza, who's scared to death of me, which I think is funny as hell. If you ever watch his body language, he doesn't even, if he could crawl away from me, he would. He is so afraid of me.
He's very
Oh my God, because I ripped his balls off the last couple times we were on because he was literally defending Trump and JD Vance lying about Haitians eating cats and dogs. And I embarrassed the shit out of him on television and
Sorry,
said,
it's
you
not
really?
funny. It's just so ridiculous.
It's so I know, right? This is a real thing. And this is what we actually had to argue over. And I made that point and I was like, you know better. Are you seriously sitting here defending this right now? And he knew better. But anyway, so he's scared to death of me. This other guy I had never heard of. I don't know where he came from. He's some third-rate like Black Republican now. Used to be a Bernie supporter and an Obama supporter, and now he's a Trump supporter because he wants the he wants the attention. Right. Nobody knew him now. Nobody knows him really now.
Right.
But he and I got into this back and forth, and I made that point about because it was the day that Chuck Schumer caved and basically betrayed all the House Democrats who actually for once did the right thing as a unit.
Usually the other way around.
Right. We were like, okay, we got something here, and then here comes Chuck Schumer and messes it all up. And I said that I use that example all the time about Winston Churchill and the bombing over London. And I'm like, could you imagine if they took the approach of Chuck Schumer? We'd all be speaking German. I was like, you can't do this. You cannot mount an effective opposition if your troops are so demoralized that they don't want to fight.
Right.
That matters. And I don't know what it's going to take. And Chuck Schumer was supposed to do a book tour, which was just,
which he was charging to get in, which I'm like, well, okay, the price of your book should be price enough, but whatever. Right. So, but yeah, I mean, people were like, oh, I'm sorry, book tour? I think you mean town hall tour. And then,
and we know ahead of time where you're going to be.
Fantastic. So he canceled the whole thing, which...
And now he's doing a media tour. Like he's doing like,
CYA, just.
And nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants, like Chuck, if you're explaining you're losing, you know this. You've been in politics longer than we've both been alive. You know this. So whoever told you that this was a good idea, fire them because this was a terrible idea. And for everyone else that went along with this scheme, terrible idea. Because guess what? Most people don't understand the ins and outs of how the Senate works. And most people don't care. They want to know, how does this impact my life every day? And by you showing that weakness, that's all people will ever see. I don't give a shit what explanation you give. It's not going to matter because turn around and what do you see? Now Donald Trump has shut down the Department of Education. So what did you capitulating to the Republicans do to stop that? Explain it, because you can't. Because they weren't going to stop. No, you giving in wasn't going to stop Donald Trump or the Republicans or Elon Musk from doing anything that they're already doing. So instead of fighting back and giving people something to rally behind, you've demoralized them, pissed them off, and Trump and Musk are doing it anyway. Make it make sense.
I know. And so, which leads me, and we do have a lot to get to tonight, but the Paul Weiss news that just happened before we came on to as well, which is another just example of just laying down and taking it. President Trump on his decision to withdraw an EO targeting Paul Weiss law firm. Its chairman agreed to, among other things, dedicate the equivalent of $40 million in pro bono legal services over the course of President Trump's term to support the Trump administration. And there's some fine print here too about Mark Pomerantz. Basically, they had to admit that Mark Pomerantz was in the wrong. Which, Tara, if you want to explain more about Mark Pomerantz, he was like a mob lawyer that was. Anyways, you go ahead.
Yeah, but he was also on one of the investigations into Trump's wrongdoing. I believe it was the hush money case, and then wrote a book. And so that's the whole reason why Trump has been going after these law firms. This is part of the I Am Your Retribution tour that he promised he would do. And he went after the Paul Weiss law firm, which is a big, major law firm, very powerful law firm. He went after Perkins Coie, and he went after another one. It's escaping my mind right now, but these are also Perkins Coie. It's
where Mark Elias used to be, and all of those, his partners.
Who does Democracy Docket now.
Yep.
And, he's gone after Mark Elias personally and some of those lawyers, Mark Zaid and others that work with whistleblowers. They took their security clearances away. But these, like Perkins Coie had lawyers that worked for Hillary Clinton. And then there was another firm that had lawyers that were on Jack Smith's team. So that's why he's targeting law firms and saying that they shouldn't be, they're being punished for basically defending, which is what you do, which everyone's entitled to a defense in America, at least they used to be. And so now they have put so much pressure. God knows what. Part of the reason why we were a couple minutes late tonight was because I got a call from someone very close to us who's a supporter of our organization, who used to work at Paul Weiss, who knows some of the people, who was absolutely horrified when she got the news, and said, she was like, I cannot believe this. I know these people. They despise Trump. They were big Kamala supporters, but they must have threatened to basically ruin the law firm for them to bow like this. She's like, I don't even know what to say. That is so egregious. If this had happened under any other administration, people would have been, this would have been impeachable. Like, these are impeachable. Like, Donald Trump engages in impeachable offenses once
every day.
Yes.
1/1,000,000th of the things that he's doing or have done would have ended a political career even 10 years ago. And now it's just,
another day. It's just another
who cares?
Breaking news flash.
I know. It's like, that's why it's like so hard to prepare for the show. I get up in the morning, I have my breakfast, my coffee, I sit around, I catch up on the news, and then I start pulling things that I think we can talk about. And I start putting down like a rundown, and I'm like, I don't even know why I bother. I don't, because
by 5 o'clock.
Right. By 5 o'clock, it's out the window. So like, again, another thing we wanted to talk about tonight was the Kennedy Center visit that he had this week, which is so upsetting. So again, if you didn't see this, he's up on the balcony inside the Kennedy Center. Now, if you've ever seen,
it's so horrible,
the Kennedy Center honors or anything like that, there is like a presidential box kind of like right in the middle. And that's where you would see the presidents watching the honors, everything. So he goes up there and just watch.
If you're ready, go ahead.
What are the changes you're looking to make to the Kennedy Center?
We're going to make a lot of changes, including the seats, the decor, pretty much everything. Needs a lot of work.
Oh my God.
Mr. President, are you surprised by the reaction that the Vice President got here at the Kennedy Center with the underneath?
I don't know about that. He's the most popular Vice President we've had in years. He's done a great job. I don't know anything about it. I figured you'd ask a question like that.
Mr. President, what are we talking about price-wise to renovate, to bring it up to, your
We're looking at that, whatever it is. I think, it's such an important part of the fabric of the country and of D.C. So we want to do it right. We'll do it right, and we'll do it once. So you want a little picture like this? Perfect. Go ahead. Are you guys ready? Come on. We're good, sir.
Sir, if you want to speak to us later, too, when we're closer, that would be great. Perfect. Thank you, press. Right this way.
Don't cry for me, Orangina. So, okay. Obviously,
so you know that I'm like,
I know.
I want to break out in hives. The Kennedy Center is my happy place, and it is killing me. It is absolutely beautiful inside the Kennedy Center. It is not in disrepair. It does not need any kind of makeover with any of his fake gold tacky bullshit that whatever he's going to put into the Kennedy Center, if they actually go through with that, which I'm hoping they don't. I don't know who's going to pay for it. Maybe he's going to get Elon to write the check, because the Kennedy Center is privately funded. It only gets 16% of its funding from the federal government, I think, roughly, if I remember. So what are you doing? He talked about the reach. The reach is where he said, I don't know what these cubes are that obstruct the view with
I
the
have
stairs.
This. Hold on. Let me. So this is right after, on his way out.
Center, and it's in tremendous disrepair, as is a lot of the rest of our country, most of it because of bad management. They spent a fortune, $250 million, and they built these rooms that nobody's going to use, rooms underground. We're going to have a little problem with some people that work here. We had Lee Greenwood wanted to sing a little song today, and because of the cost and the union structure, for him to sing a song just for the board, just a board meeting, it was going to cost $30,000. That doesn't sound too good. They wanted $30,000 to move a piano, so we're gonna fix it up. but it's really emblematic of our country. But the Kennedy Center, you look at the columns outside, you look at, I mean, they're supposed to be covered by something, whether it's marble or whatever, granite. They were never covered. They were painted. But bringing it to more modern times, a lot of money's been given to it, and the money has not been properly spent. They built rooms underground with no windows, no nothing, that will not be used ever. You're not going to have people use them. It's such a waste of money, such a terrible waste, but we'll bring it back, we'll make it great again. But it is so much like what I'm witnessing in other places. We have.
So he goes on to compare the Kennedy Center to trans people playing sports, which is just, I mean, it all comes back to that. So
I want to clear a couple things up, unless you want to talk about what.
Well,
what
there's
he
a
was
couple
talking
things
about.
that I'd like to correct him because
Yes.
he's an idiot. So
Because I go
okay.
there all the time, and I go to
Right.
the programming at the Reach, and I remember when they raised the money for it and what an absolute triumph it was, and how beautiful it was when they finished it. And the people who use the classrooms, that's all for workshops and for
This is where I
programming,
was
right?
this is where I was
mean,
going with this. So like even okay, so if anybody is tuning in for the first time or doesn't know this, I come from theater. My background is in theater. That's what I did in college. That's what I came to New York to do. And there was, I mean, I remember doing a workshop underneath Lincoln Center, which
Mhm.
again, if you've been to Lincoln Center, is a huge, huge place, right? All underground, there are practice rooms, there are rehearsal spaces, there's like, you know, storage for like instruments and things like that. There is a reason why all these things exist.
That is correct.
I did a workshop under there with, gosh, what was her name? Lawrence Birdwell. She was Kristen Chenoweth's voice teacher, and Adam Gettle. It was like, it was a great, great,
Yeah.
great week. But anyways, I say that
Yeah,
just
they
because
have
like,
to practice somewhere. Because when I told you, when he said
Right.
this, and I told you, I'm like, I explained to you what the Reach was, and that it was an
Mhm.
expansion so that they could have more diverse programming
Right.
and have more space for rehearsals and workshops and programs and bring in more programming all year long. So it's an expansion, and
Right.
so it was like the crown jewel of the expansion of the Kennedy Center
Right.
that he's disparaging and making up that no one uses these classrooms. That's not true.
That's
at
not
all.
true at all. And so then he starts complaining about the union and the $30,000. Now, I don't know that it would have cost $30,000, but it would have been expensive. And I'll tell you why. Because to load in a grand piano, because they're going to bring in the grand piano, that grand piano is probably, if at the Kennedy Center, I mean, at least 100 grand. I mean,
Yeah,
like
easy.
So you need to have people who specialize in knowing how to move a piano.
Yep.
And those people work there and they're union. Okay. So then they have to then, if once you move it, then you have to retune it again.
Yep.
Anytime you move an instrument like or a piano like that, you have to retune it. So then you're also dealing with people with lighting. Then you have to bring in people who are running the soundboard. You have to set up his microphone. You have to do all of these things. And there's safety
They're all
issues.
union.
They're all union. And then you're dealing with safety issues on a stage and you're dealing with people who aren't on stage. And then you also have to book these people, the crew members, to probably a half day at least, most likely a full day, because they have to come in the night before to set these things up.
Plus the security, because the security perimeter around the Kennedy Center was locked down because Trump was going to be there, and it was locked down all day. So those people have to be able to get screened. They have to go through all of that. So yeah, easily a full day.
Yep. So I say all that because I'm a member of the actors union, and it's just like, you know, it's just how it is. And
he knows that,
and he knows that. But like, that's the thing. He's from New York, so he knows that. But he also, you know, dealt with performers and stuff at his casinos, and he has, you know, he detests people who like. I mean, this is the thing. He doesn't like to pay people for their work, and if they're union, he has to. And so, like that, I'm sure he just, you know, it was trying to make a point.
And remember, you said he used these people at his casinos. The casinos that he bankrupted.
Correct.
Okay, so like
the house always wins, except when Trump owns
it's Donald Trump. Bankrupted casinos, not just one, more than one.
Right.
And that's also the reason why, because he doesn't pay people and he doesn't like union workers. That's also the reason why he stopped building things. He doesn't build anything anymore. After Trump Tower and the Park Hyatt down there at Grand Central, he hasn't built anything since the early 80s.
He just slaps his names on things.
That's correct, because he doesn't want to pay union workers. There was a whole thing about how he stiffed people in building those things, and he has a terrible reputation in New York City for that. So nobody would build for him anymore.
Yeah, aside from the fact that he's an asshole and a
Right.
jackass and a
Right.
womanizer and he's cheesy and
Yeah.
like I can't tell you how many women
Low
that I
quality.
know who have Donald Trump stories like, oh, I saw Donald Trump in an elevator and he cornered me. Like I'm talking people who aren't much older than me. So he's had this reputation for years and years and years. We all know this. The people in the tri-state area knew this. Unfortunately, the rest of the country did not seem to understand because all they
Or they
saw
didn't
was The
care.
Apprentice, or they didn't care. All they saw is the guy from The Apprentice. That shame on Mark Burnett and it's funny. I was thinking about this earlier on a group chat. We were talking about how the New York Times has finally kind of written a story today about the fascism that's happening.
Oh,
I'm
how
like,
nice of them.
well, it's about goddamn time.
Yeah. Where was
A
that
little
6 months ago?
late because I think what is starting to happen, and we talked about this, and this was an ad that I pitched many times at my last place of
Mhm.
employment was the fourth estate will be the first to go, and it needed to be like an audience of one to the people of the media. It's like I think they think, okay, if I am not too harsh on him, if I'm not too mean, if I'm soft on him, he won't come for me. So if he goes for everybody else, he'll be nice to us. He'll spare us. No,
It
that is
never,
not how he
never
operates.
happens. It never happens anyway in
Same with
authoritarian
the
regimes.
Supreme Court.
Ever.
Same with the Supreme Court and Justice Roberts putting out that thing the other day, that statement about him, like, but not saying his name. I'm like, because I think that they're starting to realize, like, oh shit, like he's gonna come for us. He's gonna take our power away. I'm like, yeah,
Yes,
dipshit.
because
Like,
they're protected by the U.S. Marshals. And guess who
right,
controls the U.S. Marshals? Donald Trump, because it's under a cabinet agency.
right.
So he can pull their funding anytime he wants, or pull their details anytime he wants. And more judges are getting threats because he's been threatening judges as being illegal and that they should be impeached. And so is Elon Musk. And you think that's not going to have a cascading effect? And these wackos out there are going to go for judges? Of course they are.
Yep.
But anyway,
And
continue.
no, I mean, it's like, and beyond that, like because he is a narcissist and a malignant narcissist, and he does not have any other capability as a human emotion or reaction to anything other than to attack and to seek revenge. And you cannot reason with him. There is no reasoning with him. It's never going to happen. It is like clinical. It's in his brain. And in addition to that, like he's not well. He's an old man, and
he looks terrible. Again,
did you see this
oh my
clip?
God.
Did you see this clip of him and Laura Ingraham, and he's talking about Barron and how because he's at
the stupid laptop?
Yeah, let me just play this because it's so weird.
It's aptitude, in your view, business or politics?
Maybe technology. He can look at a computer. I'd try turning off his car, turn it off. I'd turn off his laptop. I said, oh, good. And I go back 5 minutes later, he's got his laptop. I said, how'd you do that? None of your business, Dad. No, he's got an unbelievable aptitude in technology.
Okay. Okay. First of all, like, okay, we lost your sound again and you're muted. I think you hit a button.
You know what it is?
There
I
you go.
muted myself because of the sirens. I apologize.
Okay.
And I started talking. First of all, he's like, he turned off the computer and then he turned it back on. I said, how'd you do that?
I'm like, what is he, 5?
Right. He's
I
like
mean, he's in college now, isn't he?
yeah, he goes to NYU.
I mean, we haven't seen much of him, so I don't know if I don't know if everything's all right there with him.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Right, there's been speculation. So
the kids I
don't know.
babysat went to the same school as him.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, people are saying that
people are saying
he has some deficiencies. However,
yeah,
whatever. But I'm just saying, like, he's talking about turning a laptop on, and that makes him like some kind of genius. No.
Which is why I think he looks at somebody like Elon Musk and thinks he is so genius.
Right.
He is a genius person. And even though Elon Musk has never invented anything, he's never built anything. Tesla belonged to other people, and he was a partner and then like pushed them out.
Yep.
PayPal, same kind of thing, except he got pushed out. Like none of these things are his. He's not an engineer. He's not a scientist. He's never.
No.
So when fortunately, SpaceX helped go rescue those astronauts that were on the Boeing thing and the International Space Station. And correct me if I'm wrong here. And they brought them back down to Earth, and thank God they'd been up there forever.
9 months.
9 months, and SpaceX did have a hand in helping them get back.
Well, thanks to our tax dollars, SpaceX
Correct.
now is a
Correct.
successful rocket company for the most part. With this
Mhm.
part, they're working on other parts, the ones that have
Right.
been blowing up lately. That's not great.
No.
But, you have to experiment to figure it out, and that's fine. At least there were no people on those things. But
Right.
now SpaceX has like a 99% success rate with ferrying people back and forth to this International Space Station.
But it's
now,
not because of anything.
no, it's not
he
because of
did.
anything Elon Musk has done personally. I
Right.
mean, he basically just put the money behind SpaceX.
Yeah.
He has nothing to do with the engineers and the people that went there to do all this. He just financed it.
Right.
So, it's important for people to understand that now, when I worked in Congress as a staffer, the congressman I worked for was on the space committee. So I had an opportunity to learn a whole lot about how NASA works, about space programs, about the shuttle program. I was there from 2006 until 2013. So I was there when they discontinued the shuttle program. And it was, it was heartbreaking. It was so nostalgic for all of us, especially my generation as a Gen
Sure.
Xer, right? And I mean, everybody would, it's just like, no, but it cost $1 billion every time to send the space shuttle up and back. $1 billion, which
That's
is
a
a
lot of
lot.
money.
That's ridiculous. It was like, okay, there's got to be you want to talk about more efficiency. There's got to be a more efficient way to do this.
Right.
So they figured out a more efficient way to do it, which was reusable rockets. That's what SpaceX did. I've actually been to the SpaceX facility in Long Beach, California. My old boss was a big backer of SpaceX at the time because their factory and their headquarters were in his district, and he saw that as the future because they knew the direction that NASA was going in, getting rid of the program. So SpaceX has done lovely things, but we do not want people to be deceived that Elon Musk designed the rockets or came up with the concepts or was, building anything or is some kind of, he's not. He's a fucking fraud. And our tax dollars were the ones that saved SpaceX by subsidizing it and giving it $500 million in contracts at the time, thanks to President Obama and my old boss partially, to do this. And so they weren't rescued, even though we're saying that kind of as a colloquial term, because Boeing's attempt to do this didn't work out so well. They made it up, but they weren't able to come back.
Yeah.
So they had a contingency plan, which they always do. They weren't stranded there. They could have come back at any time. There is a Dragon capsule that is attached to the International Space Station for an emergency evacuation at any time. So they could have come back, but instead they decided to stay and do experiments and make the best of it.
Right.
So they did. And then it was time for them to finally come back when they switched out the crew for the space shuttle. For the SpaceX mission this time around. So yay, thanks. It's probably a good PR boost for Elon.
Well, the first person, first of all, I'm watching the live feed from the Associated Press.
Yeah.
And it splashes down and they're like,
yeah, it was cool.
and then it splashes into the Gulf of America. And I was like, come on.
I was watching it on CNN. So, and I was driving, and so I was listening, and then I stopped, and I was watching, on my phone, which I shouldn't do because it's dangerous, but I didn't care because I wanted to see it because everyone knows who watches us and follows us knows that I'm a space enthusiast. So I was like, this is going to be pretty cool. But when you told me, they didn't say I didn't hear the Gulf of America thing. When you told me that, I was like, oh my God. And then I saw it online.
Recording it on my phone because I wanted to remember it. And I always keep videos like that on my phone, and I was like, oh, come on, you gotta be kidding me. But so the first person that, of course, Fox News wanted to talk to was Elon Musk, and then he started crying, not literally, but probably at some point later, about how liberals are so mean to him and Tesla. Here's the clip.
I have to ask, why do
hold on, let me do that again.
I have to ask, why do I see people like I woke up this morning and saw that Teslas were put ablaze in one of your dealerships in Vegas? I've seen this happen all over the country. Bullets are being fired. Charging stations are put ablaze. Teslas are being put ablaze. You have experienced assassination, threats of assassination for you and your family. What have you done that warrants this? Because I see nothing that you have done except help our country.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's really come as quite a shock to me that there's this level of really hatred and violence from the left. I always thought the left, or Democrats, were supposed to be the party of empathy, the party of caring, and yet they're burning down cars, they're firebombing dealerships, they're firing bullets into dealerships, they're just,
All the liberals
smashing
have the
up
bullets
Teslas.
now?
I know.
Tesla is a
apparently.
peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. I've never done anything harmful. I've only done productive things.
Only
Oh.
productive things.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're just
He won't be
have,
turned into biodiesel.
a
Right.
deranged.
He's never done anything.
There's some kind of mental illness thing going on here because this doesn't make any sense.
Mental illness.
Yeah, projection
Yeah,
much,
I
buddy?
think there are larger forces at work as well. I mean, I don't know who's funding it and who's coordinating it because
Oh, my God.
this is crazy.
Okay,
Okay.
I can't.
Okay, bitch. Okay. No one's funding this. We hate you. I'm not saying that I'm doing this or I'm not even condoning people burn stuff. I'm not condoning that, but I'm just saying people hate you because they hate you because
Yeah,
you're a
'cause you're an
monster.
asshole.
Because you're an asshole and you're a monster. And because you are deeply, deeply broken to the point of you. I mean, you're killing people. People are dying around the world because of you, and more will die because of you. You have single-handedly, at least in the last 59 days, dismantled 248-year democracy. So shut up, stop whining, stop crying. I'm sick of you. We're all sick of you. I keep waiting for the people in the White House to be sick enough of him for him to go away.
I know.
But I think it's important for people to know that why does this keep happening? I don't want to look at that. There we go. I think it's important that people know that Pam Bondi has announced charges for Tesla attacks as terrorism.
Yeah, because Trump said that if he said that if you attack a Tesla dealership or attack them there, it's going to be domestic terrorism.
Right.
So who was it that said that, school shooters, we're not worried about that, but
Thoughts and prayers.
We're going to, thoughts and prayers for school shooters, and victims, but oh no,
Yep.
we're going to charge
Thoughts
you
and
with
prayers
domestic
for the
terrorism.
5-year-olds who were shot in their
Yeah.
classrooms. But, poor Elon, he's such a victim. I'm a
Yeah,
victim.
Such a victim. And his car company he's lost $100 billion in net worth. And you've got the Commerce Secretary out here hawking Tesla stock on television, which used to be illegal. last
Lutnick,
time I
right?
checked. Yeah,
That
Lutnick.
guy,
that
he's such a
dumb dumbass.
clown.
Oh my God. And
What a clown.
but he literally, you are the Commerce Secretary telling people to buy a specific stock. I remember not too long ago where that was really, really illegal.
Right. There was once upon a time. And it gets even worse for Tesla. I'm going to read this headline for anyone listening at home. It's from wired.com. It says nearly all Cybertrucks have been recalled because Tesla used the wrong glue.
Yeah, because
Sorry.
Elon was too busy sniffing the other glue, I guess.
Right. It says Tesla says it will fix the sticky issue, which could cause panels to detach from trucks while driving with a new adhesive not prone to environmental embrittlement. Tesla said Thursday it would recall nearly all the Cybertrucks it has produced to repair a stainless steel trim panel that the car said would become detached, blah, blah, blah. We already said that.
Yeah, it's like 46,000 of them, right?
It's almost all of them in the United States. It's literally all of them. Unlike many other Tesla-related recalls, though, this one cannot be fixed with an over-the-air software update and must be brought into a service center for repairs. The recall affects more than 46,000 Cybertrucks manufactured between November 2023 and late February 2025. And again, it's important for people to know, like, he's not an inventor, but this is the one car at Tesla that he actually had his hands on.
Right.
This is the one car that, like, he wanted the design and, like, he's like, so this is
The
the
indestructible one.
like the Titanic of cars, which I mean,
dude, did you not see the movie?
right. It's unsinkable. Just kidding.
Oh my
Just
God.
kidding. So it's
I just want to say something else too, which just so people understand. Fox News put out a poll that showed how unpopular some of the things that Donald Trump is doing actually is with the American people. The Gulf of America bullshit, only like 61% of the American people are like, this is stupid. They don't like it. And There's 67% of the American people think, yeah, you shouldn't dismantle the Department of Education. This is a Fox News poll. I believe it was out tonight.
I mean,
Right there.
imagine when it's going to be Social Security, because what
Yes.
they're going to do with the Social Security thing is what I think is going to happen is they're going to say, no, Social Security still exists, but they're going to try to like kill it from the inside and make it really hard for people to even
which is
get
what
their
they're
money.
doing, which is what
Right.
they're doing already. So
Mhm.
Social Security, for those who are of the age that are watching us or have parents who are on Social Security, take note. Doge is all up in Social Security, by the way. And also, they're now saying that you need to prove your identity. And if you can't prove your identity online, you have to go to a Social Security office and prove it in person. According to some statistics here, they're talking about between 75 and 80,000 people a week would have to do this. I want to know, A, who's going to staff this, and B, I'm sorry, you're going to make 75-year-olds schlep into the freaking Social Security office to show their ID to prove that they're who they are because they're so worried about waste, fraud, and abuse. Stop this. This is asinine.
The thing is, I almost am wondering, are they thinking, oh, well, maybe they'll just get so tired of it, they won't try anymore? And I'm like, no, people are relying on this money. Like, people will crawl over glass to get it. I mean, this is life or death for a lot of people. And so this is where
they paid into it. That's the other
their
thing too.
whole lives.
We're still paying into it. We probably won't ever see it because of other problems, but it doesn't matter. The people who are getting it now, they paid into the system. They deserve to get their money. And they're not parasites, Elon Musk. People are not, Social Security is not a Ponzi scheme, Elon Musk. You need to shut up about Ponzi schemes, buddy.
Well, right. While he, again, is being subsidized by the American government, he's now living in government housing. He takes government transportation in the form of Marine One and Air Force One for his family to get around.
Yeah, he's got a government nanny taking care of his
nanny.
Kid, who's now the president of the United States. Is a pretty expensive nanny.
I sent you that video. It was like one of the gay humorists that I follow, and he did the Fran Drescher.
Yes,
it's so funny. It's so funny.
It's
anyways, it just made me laugh.
And then he trips the steps of Marine.
Yeah, and then he trips up the steps with the kid. I'm like, why are we doing this? This is so stupid. But this is why we call him the welfare queen. And I think now is a great time to remind people how and why. So let's play Welfare Queen. There's a shadow president in Washington.
Sitting behind the Resolute desk.
We didn't elect this guy. He wants us to believe he's a self-made man, that he made his billions through hard work and his so-called genius.
He didn't invent the
SpaceX explosion.
But the truth is, he mooched off the American taxpayer.
Pronounced subsidies.
Our money. And he's too arrogant to admit the free ride that we have been giving him. Republicans used to attack folks living off government assistance, calling them welfare queens. But it was all a myth. The real welfare queen is Elon Musk.
We gave him all his money.
And he's coming for more. Our Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, our jobs, our private information, our livelihoods, our safety. And Donald Trump is letting him.
Is there anything you've told Elon Musk he cannot touch?
Well, we haven't discussed that much.
Don't be fooled. This isn't about making government work better for you. It's about making America work for him. Are we going to stand back and stand by and let this happen? Hey, Congress, we're talking to you too. You work for us. Do your job and stop this now.
It's still good.
It is.
And
shout out to Alex, who is one of our editors who worked very closely with us to make that video, who just had a birthday yesterday. So happy belated birthday, Alex. We love Alex.
Michelle and I literally took us 45 minutes to write that script. We wrote it on a Friday morning, and Michelle did the VO and Alex put it together over a weekend, and there it is. And listen, for folks who love our ads and say, they love our content, we operate as a donor functioning organization. So we can only put our content out and make our content based on how much folks are generous enough to support us. So if you would like to see us continue to put out more content and get it placed, please continue to support us, because we can't do it without that. So spread the word.
Amen. Amen.
And help us out, because we are a donor supported organization. I just wanted to remind folks of that.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Tara. That is so true. And, we have so many ideas and we have things that we're doing, and we're always working with other, having conversations with other people with ideas and things as well. Cause, sometimes there are even people on our advisory board are seeing things that we're not seeing. And so, the wheels are always turning, and it's, and it's all of you who support us and allow us to do that. So
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, because we're going to need it now more than ever. And as
Oh
you
my God.
see, there really aren't that many folks out there fighting the way
No.
we do. So
No, because, and I don't want to go on a tangent here, but I feel like sometimes it needs to be said that there are people in this fight who are not in this fight. And some of those people are elected officials. Some of those people run PACs. Some of those people are other personalities. They're not here because they care. They are not here to make a difference. They're not out there swinging around at really anything. They're just swinging around just enough to get you to give them money.
right.
And
Or just enough to troll. And it's
yeah,
like,
and
we're beyond that now. Okay. This is a
yeah,
much, much more serious situation. I mean, you
it
can make
is
mock
very
them,
serious.
but trolling is a kind of very, very 2020.
It is. It is very serious. And, Tara and I don't talk about this often, the origin story of Seneca Project, but we started this, the two of us decided to leave what we were doing and start this because we felt that this was more important. And we did it at great personal sacrifice
That
to our
is
own
correct.
lives. And so, that I don't know what else to say other than that. I mean, this is what Tara and I do all day, every day. And of course the sirens just when I'm starting to talk. So I apologize. But that's why your support means even more to us, because it's personal to us. It's personal to all of us, everybody watching, everyone who cares. Right. So I just want people to know that we notice and we see you and we hear you, and we're so appreciative for any support you can give us, whether that's $5 or $10, or if it's just hitting like and subscribe or sharing our video content with someone that you care about, that you think might want to see it. So yeah. So
yeah, for us, and we don't like to talk about that because it's complicated, but it's the truth. And for us, defending democracy is not a business decision. We can't say that about some other people who are in this space. So
and
we wanted to make sure that we had the autonomy and the integrity to do the right thing and focus on the things that matter, and make a difference and have impact, because that's what matters here.
That's right.
And so, so that's why.
Right. And I mean, and that's why, even this morning, and this, I don't know that we have all the time to get really into it, but I was listening to Julie Roginski, who's our friend who we do our show with on Wednesdays and Saturdays. She did her Substack video today about the children of Ukraine.
Oh my gosh, yes, this story.
And this, I am like having a hard time talking about it because it's so upsetting to me. We use The Handmaid's Tale a lot to compare women's reproductive rights and what's happening to women's rights in this country. We use that example a lot. But I think another example that isn't talked about enough, that maybe we're experiencing through that show, that we can relate to or see through their eyes, is the kidnapping of children from their families and taken away from them. And that is what is happening in Ukraine. The Russians have kidnapped 35,000 children.
That's outrageous.
35,000 children, and sent them to Russia to indoctrinate them into hating their families and their homeland. And in some cases, they are stealing these children from the arms of their mothers and fathers and giving them to families who've lost children fighting in the war. What does that sound like? So
Unbelievable. China does this too, by the way.
it is. And these people.
They do this. China does this too with like the Uyghurs, and they just disappear people and or take kids and put them into labor camps and things.
Yeah.
And North Korea. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually
Terrible.
this isn't the slide that I wanted to show. There's another slide. Let me see if I can find it. Maybe I don't have it
While
here,
you're
but
looking for that, just
yeah.
to supplement this part of the conversation.
Mhm.
So the State Department got rid of the program. Right?
Yes, here it is. Wait, why is that? I don't know.
So the State Department had a program that was monitored. I think it was State Department. I can't remember if it was the State Department or the Pentagon, but in cahoots.
Yep.
They got rid of the program that was monitoring this.
Yep. And here it is. Okay. So what was happening is the federal government was funding and helping out this group that was part of at Yale. So Yale was doing all this study on the data that was being collected about the Russians stealing these children.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of DOGE, which is not a real thing, came in and ended the program, defunded it completely. Now, what has happened, unfortunately, in that as well, is that the entire database of all of this information that was being collected about the Russians doing this, war crime, by the way, this is a war crime.
Yep.
All of this data was deleted. They were about to hand over.
Hope somebody backed this up. There's got to be a backup somewhere. I hope.
I hope so. I hope so. But they were about to hand this over to our European counterparts, which were, coordinating a lot of this data. And they could not have done this without the help of Donald Trump,
oh my God,
Elon Musk, and Marco Rubio. Okay? I want people to understand that Marco Rubio, no matter how normal he may seem or how anything else that he seems to you, has no soul.
Unbelievable.
He has no soul. So it says the State Department and the Yale Center had been preserving evidence of abducted children from Ukraine it had identified to be shared with Europol and the government of Ukraine to secure their return, the letter said, according to a copy obtained by the New York Times. Europol is the main law enforcement agency of the European Union. The letter was also addressed to Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. We have reason to believe that the data from the repository has been permanently deleted. If true, this would have devastating consequences. Can you please update us as to the status of the data from the evidence repository? So the Yale lab was one of several recipients of the $26 million congressional funding over 3 years through the State Department to track war crimes committed by the Russian forces in Ukraine. So I just want to say, Marco Rubio is a sniveling, spineless, and now war criminal. If you are aiding and abetting war crimes, you are a war criminal. And that's what we're dealing with right now. And, in the chat of Julie's show today, I said, there needs to, at some point at the end of this, whatever this is going to be, there is going to be Nuremberg style trials.
My husband says this all the time. He's
and
like,
I hope
be
to God
something after this is over with these people.
I hope to God I live long enough to see these people tried and imprisoned and whatever else, because this is on another level. And I also, just for anybody who might be watching, probably not of Democratic leadership someday, 99 votes in the Senate to confirm Marco Rubio. This guy used to be, on his soapbox talking about Russia and Ukraine. And this was his thing that he cared about, because you know what? His family escaped communist Cuba to come to the United States and start a better life. And their son grew up to be a United States senator. What a great country.
Yeah.
And now
his mom a maid and his dad a bartender or something.
Yeah.
He had a great American immigrant story.
His father also, he used to attend protests with his father in favor of labor rights and labor unions before they moved to Florida, because he used to be Mormon and lived, it doesn't matter. He lived in Nevada or something like that. Anyways, but what a great country. that has enabled a young man like Marco Rubio to rise in the ranks.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently he has been able to do this also by the lack of his conviction and moral compass. He has proven over and over and over again to believe in nothing. Or maybe he does, it doesn't matter, because what he does is contradictory to everything that we know as Americans. And he is helping along as the Secretary of State to install a dictatorship and authoritarian government in the United States of America.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
how you can go around talking all day. Oh, my family, we came from communist Cuba. Really? Then why are you sending America to communist Cuba? Because I'd love to know. And I don't know how he lives with himself. I really don't.
I know. Listen, I often say Donald Trump couldn't do this by himself. He did this because I blame the enablers. I've always said this. Donald Trump has always told us who he is, and he is an ignoramus. And he never would have been able to get away with a fraction of the things that he's gotten away with without the enablers helping him and letting him get away with it.
Yeah.
And that is the entire Republican Party. They are more than enablers now. They are collaborators. And it is why I left the party. It is why I hope it burns to the ground. And it is why I will never have any grace for Republicans who continue to support him who know better. They fucking know better. And that is the most frustrating part about this, because it didn't have to be this way. We had so many opportunities to stop this man before this kind of absolute nightmarish hellscape of a country that he's turning us into, and what he's doing to the rest of the world before we got to this point. And they didn't do it. And not only did they not do it, now they're collaborating with him.
Yep.
And which is why at this point it is only up to us, because the Democrats, they need to get a fire lit under their ass. Like I was going to talk to you earlier today about maybe pre-taping the show, because my congressman was having a town hall tonight, about a half an hour away from where I live, because our district is actually pretty big. And I saw that this morning that he was going to do a town hall, and I was going to go because I just wanted. He's actually one of the good guys. He's a Democrat. He's a freshman congressman, good guy. But I wanted to see what the reaction was going to be, because even though this district is blue, it's kind of purple a little bit.
Northern Virginia is kind of
because I live like outside the Beltway, so there are parts that are pretty red,
right,
and there are parts that are also very blue. So this is one of those districts that's like that. And he was having the town hall in a very red part of the district. He wanted to do that on purpose, and I wanted to see what the reaction was going to be, but I decided not to go because we actually started to have bad storms. And then I was like, I think
they're hitting New York right now too. I'm like
they're
watching
coming up
it
now. I was hoping that we didn't lose power while we had a weird power surge last night out of nowhere.
Oh, interesting.
It was weird. Yeah, it was so strange. But anyway, we don't really usually lose power like that, just randomly. Anyway, but I decided though that it was more important that we do the show live, because there was just so much going on.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with. Honestly.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up. But I want to encourage people that if you have the opportunity to go to town halls, or if there's something being organized for a empty chair town hall because you're a congressman,
those are happening.
They are happening. Go, please, because this is what is going to be required. And if Democrats are going to mount an opposition, they've got to have a fire lit under their ass. And that's going to come from us.
Yeah.
Because there are so many things happening that people are like, what can we do? What are we going to do? And going and making sure your voice is heard for the people who work for you is critically important. And as we wrap up the show tonight, there's one other thing that kind of goes along with this, just with the outrage of the week, that's all related with what Doge is doing and all of that. I mentioned at the top of the show that there was literally armed police helping Doge break into private companies now, organizations. The Institute of Peace is an NGO. They also did this with the U.S. African Aid Foundation. They had U.S. Marshals. They had to go with them to let them come in because the staff members of these organizations were telling them to fuck off. You're not coming in here. The Institute of Peace is actually right across the street from the State Department, if anyone who is familiar with Washington, right on 23rd Street, 23rd and Constitution. It's a beautiful building, privately owned. The Institute of Peace was started under the Reagan administration to literally like negotiate peace and diplomacy. Okay. It's like a soft power NGO. And they literally had a standoff between the administration's Doge and their staff. The president of the Institute of Peace locked himself in his office and was like, you're not coming in here. The U.S. attorney of the DC, Ed Martin, is a Trump MAGA crazy. He told Metro PD, the police department in Washington, D.C., that they had permission to break down the doors or do whatever they needed to do to get Doge into that building. And that's what they did. They literally picked the lock of the president's office to get in, to get access. This is out of control. They removed 11 of the 14 board members of the Institute of Peace and only kept Rubio and Hegseth because they're the SecDef and the Secretary of State are always on the board, right, as honorary members. That's it. So this is nuts. They also removed all the Democratic commissioners from the FTC. They're going down the line here, going down the list. And then Michelle sent a story about how now they're coming for the Smithsonian and the museums and the libraries. So this is outrageous, absolutely outrageous. Rachel Maddow did a whole thing last night on this. If you didn't see her opening monologue, it's really harrowing. I had heard about the Institute of Peace thing earlier in the week because Congressman Don Beyer, who's also from the Northern Virginia area, actually went on scene to try to do something, and he couldn't. There was nothing he could do. And then a judge got involved, and she said, well, as much as I am uncomfortable with the tactics, she didn't feel that it was extraordinary enough to put a temporary restraining order on it.
Jesus Christ.
What? I'm sorry. They literally had armed people forcing their way into, helping them force their way into a private entity. That's not extraordinary enough? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either. And I do think the American people are waking up. I do think they are. Even just in my own life and the people that I know around my family are starting to change in ways that I never thought I'd see. Very upset, disgusted, depressed about what's happening. I think that the marching in the streets is coming. I mean, it is happening. And I want to say that too.
But I think it's going to be bipartisan.
I think so too. And I think that first of all, the American people are already marching. They're marching and protesting all over the country every single day. And for some reason, the mainstream media is not reporting this. I don't know. Well, I think it's just like they don't want people to know. I don't know what else it could possibly be.
As we know, they're scared to death too. And I talked about this. It's Thursday, so I do my Setmayer sound off for Don Lemon's network, and I posted it also on my Substack if people want to go check it out, where I talk about this. And I'm saying that you've got the media downplaying things. You've got Republicans who are collaborating and not stepping up. You've got billionaire donors who are writing checks and just thinking that they're going to bankroll this whole thing. Meanwhile, the American people are going, you know what? I don't think so. That's why we always say it's going to be up to us. No one's going to save us but us. And this whole thing with the judges and threatening to impeach them, as I said at the top of the show, the deporting of the criminal gang members, right? Listen, I'm the first person to say, get them the hell out of here, but that's not what's happening. They're doing this extrajudicially.
They're disappearing people.
There were innocent people caught up in that sweep, in that dragnet. Michelle sent me a story about this Venezuelan soccer player guy who had the wrong tattoos on. He had a tattoo of Real Madrid that they mistook for gang tattoos, and he's an innocent guy. He was actually imprisoned in Venezuela for marching against the dictator there and came to America to seek political asylum. And his asylum hearing was scheduled for next month. But instead, he's not going to be at that asylum hearing because he got deported on a plane to El Salvador, where he is now rotting in the one of the most notorious prisons in this hemisphere.
Yep.
And
did nothing wrong.
outrageous. And did nothing wrong.
They picked him up and then looked at his tattoo, which is like a Real Madrid, which soccer team. It's like a crown with a soccer ball or something on his arm.
It says Dios on it.
And said that was a gang tattoo.
And
these people are not being vetted. Like
no.
These people are lying. Like it's just.
Did you see your buddy Tom Homan? I forgot to tell you to pull that clip. He was on Fox and Friends with that other shuck and jive it asshole Lawrence.
He said he goes, we don't care what the left says, or we don't care what the
yeah. He said I don't care what I don't care what the judges say.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it anyway.
Yep.
And he said, oh, it's a beautiful thing because they did this like obnoxiously produced video that looked like something out of some movie with these guys all shackled and their heads shaved and all that. I mean, listen, for the gang members that were like killers or whatever, if they were convicted of it, have at it.
Right.
Well, some of these people were not, they're innocent people. And now they are going to rot in this El Salvadorian prison because they don't have any rights here anymore. Yep. And they used, the administration used a technicality because a judge put a deportation hold on this and said, absolutely not, turn the planes around.
Yeah.
Because they said they were so upset because Trump is using the Alien Enemies Act from 1789.
Which is a wartime thing. And we're not at war with any country.
It's only been used 3 times in American history. The War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. And we all know what happened in World War II, where the internment of Germans, Italians, and the Japanese. 120,000 people, which was awful. And it was one of the stains of the 20th century America. And so that's what they're using. And Donald Trump on Air Force One was asked, well, if some judges are saying that you're misapplying the Alien Enemies Act, he goes, we are at war. They invaded us. I feel we are at war. Well, you don't get to feel we're at war. Congress declares that we're at war. The Constitution doesn't get to let you have a feeling, a tingle in your dingle about being at war and then decide to just use Alien Enemies Acts. Okay, that's not how it works.
Well, and it just goes to show again how important the judiciary is to them to control it or to defy it because of what if you guys want to Google into something that's going on in Wisconsin, there's a Wisconsin judicial election happening on April 1st.
Yeah, this is important.
That Elon Musk is pumping millions of dollars into, says the total spending on the contest could reach as high as $100 million for a Wisconsin judicial race is nuts.
Yep.
Like that is crazy town,
But so necessary because you remember the last time that happened,
right?
The Democrat won, and it made the difference about how the if any kind of like election interference or any of those kinds of rulings made it to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, or we were worrying about like the electors saying, like, God forbid 2020 happened again. It was really important for the Wisconsin court to have more Democrats than Republicans on it. So I'm assuming that I think it's going to make the difference in the control of the court.
I think so. I think you're right. You're right. So
that's
why something
spending that kind of money.
Yeah. And that's around, I think the same day that the special elections in Florida are happening because they're waiting until the 2nd to confirm Elise Stefanik to the UN ambassador role. And so because they're playing musical chairs with this thin majority that they have in the House, even though they're like, oh, we have a mandate. Like, no, you don't. They don't. And they know it.
Democrats have died. Like a couple Democrats have unfortunately passed away. So the numbers are really, really, really close.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
All of this matters.
Exactly. So, I mean, we can't keep up with it. We can't keep up with it. We try so hard. The last thing I just would want to tell people, and we can talk about this more on Saturday with Julie, because Julie's the perfect person to talk to about this. Go buy this book, okay? Don't buy it on Amazon. Buy it somewhere else. Careless People, okay? This book is written by a whistleblower who worked for Meta for 7 years, and she has written a memoir raking them over the coals. Not meanly. All she does is just tell what happened. And it is atrocious. I have not been able to put this book down. It is so well written. She is very smart, very funny also. But it really is a magnifying glass into this world of meta. And I just also want to tell people that she talks about this in the book. None of these people who work in tech allow their children to have phones. None of them. They know how bad it is for all of your children, and they don't care. They just want their data, and they don't let their children do any of this. But anyways, we can talk about it more on Saturday when we do coffee and conversation at 10 o'clock in the morning. Because Julia would be a great person to talk to, just because a lot of this also has to do with sexual harassment, toxic workplace, forced arbitration, whistleblower stuff. So I just think that this, this is a great conversation for Saturday. So I hope you'll all tune in and chat with us about that. So
yes, we've taken a great interest in that.
Yeah.
Well, we did it in less than 90 minutes tonight.
We did.
We got through it all. We didn't think we were going to get through it all.
I didn't get to the DEI Jackie Robinson stuff, but again, we can do that on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it's important. It's infuriating that they're erasing all the Black and brown and women from the Pentagon databases and things, which is just outrageous. And so, but they're going to keep doing it. So we can talk about that on Saturday, which we can do. So thank you everybody for joining us for the stakes. We'll see you guys on Saturday. Make sure you like and subscribe, spread the word, donate if you like, and help us out. And check out my Substack, Uncompromised on Substack. We get Michelle on there, and the other pals, Jojo from Jersey and Julie, they're all on Substack, and we're going to start doing more there because it's a pretty cool community. So I hope you guys check that out too. And we will see you next week.
See you then. Bye, everybody.
Women's suffrage is a long story of hard work and heartache crowned by victory.
Was it so hard being an American girl?
Women throughout the country are committed to winning these rights for themselves.
Was it so hard living in a first problem world?
I'm Connie Chung, CBS News, New York.
When the American promise is the land of the free, but I'm waiting for the bill for the air that I breathe. Was it so hard being an American girl?
I do.
I pray that we all remember our children are watching.
Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue. Tell me, girls, what are we gonna do? Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue. Tell me, girls, what are we gonna do? Every heart lost to all the pain and American girls, what are we gonna do? Every heart.
While I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last.
Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue. Tell me, girls, what are we gonna do?